that experience helped me understand that, in order to really change hearts and minds, change the profession for the better, you can be critical of it, but the best way to make change is to be a part of the process.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, how's it going? Welcome back to the Black and Blue Podcast. My name is Dale. I'm the host. Thank you for joining me here today. Thank you. I appreciate each and every last one of you for joining me here on this special edition of the Black and Blue Podcast. I call it special today because I have a chief all the way out in Wisconsin. As you all well know, I'm out in California, and Wisconsin is on the other side of the country, so we'll talk about the relationship between Wisconsin and the rest of the world. Let's all welcome in Chief Howell of the Racine Police Department. How you doing, sir?
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I forgot your applause here. Let's get everybody get your applause here. Yes. They were in the back, and I guess they were watching something else, and then I had to hey, the chief is on. The chief is on. So how you doing, sir?
I appreciate you.
I'm well, doing, sir? I'm excellent. Thank you for joining me here on the Black and Blue Podcast. So you are the chief of Racine. Am I saying that right? Racine?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, Racine, Wisconsin. Tell everybody about Racine. What's the demographics? Where is it located?
So Racine, for orientation, we're just about 60 miles north of Chicago, just about 24 miles south of Milwaukee. So we're right on this I-94 corridor. So small community of about 78,000 demographics, just about 60% white, just over 60% white, around 22% black, around 20% Hispanic in that area. So extremely diverse community within a stone's throw of Milwaukee and Chicago on the shores of Lake Michigan.
Yes, on the shores of Lake Michigan. And did you grow up there or from the area? Are you from the area?
Born and raised. Now, my family,
right.
Now we're part of this great migration from the South. So over 6 million folks traveling up from the South. And but that's where my parents are from, New Albany, Tupelo, Myrtle, in that area. But like I was born and raised here in Racine.
Nice. So you born and raised, you were a Racine boy, huh? Nice.
Yes, sir. And
didn't want to leave. I love that. I'm originally from a little bit further south in Columbus, Ohio. So kind of know the Great Lakes area a little bit myself, but I moved out here way back in 1984. So I've been out here in California longer than I was in California in Ohio, but still got people there and still call it my roots.
Awesome. 1984. That was a good year. That was a year that I was hired.
Oh, okay. Yes. And we'll definitely talk about that. So 1984, you've been on the Racine Police Department for how long now?
36 years. Actually 36 years and about 7 months.
Okay. And how long have you been chief?
For the past 8 years.
For the past 8 years. Nice. And so I guess you've been through every rank of department, all the way from patrol officer all the way up to chief of police. What sort of assignments have you had in your career?
Yeah, interesting story there. Normally, when you come on as a new officer, you can't take the test, become a detective until you have a certain amount of years on. But in the mid '80s, I was a patrol officer for 2 years, and then we started having an influx of gang problems from Milwaukee and Chicago. And so for the very first time ever in the history of the department, we had a gang unit that was formed. And because I was so close in age to a lot of the gang members, they gave me a special assignment to work along with a detective. And so it was the first gang unit. And so before I could really get a chance to take promotional exams, I was actually working in an investigative capacity along with a seasoned veteran. So I learned how to do search warrants, sworn affidavits, things that I probably wouldn't have had a chance to do until later in my career. And so that gave me a unique platform upon which to test. So when I did become eligible to test, I had actually had quite a bit of experience as an investigator. So I tested, I became a traffic investigator, I became a detective, and then sergeant, lieutenant, captain, deputy chief, and chief. And so, but I trace it all back to that first event where, with 2 years on, I had the unique opportunity to operate in an investigative capacity.
Okay. And you said that you were, born and raised in Racine, and then you said you were kind of the same age of a lot of the gang members that were perusing Racine at the time. Did you happen to know any of them, or is it, ties to the community?
Definitely.
Or
Yeah. So here's an amazing story. So like, because of redlining and a lot of things that happened in the 60s, 50s and 60s, like we all grew up in the same areas. And so I had a couple gang members that like lived in my like neighborhood, like where I grew up. And so I knew these guys on a personal level. And so really it was about mutual respect. I mean, they knew if they were basically operating outside of the rules that, I had a role to play. But we had this level of respect, that we could talk at the very least.
yeah. So no problems there. Great. That's good stuff. Good stuff. And then what? How large is Racine PD?
So traditionally over the years, we've been a little higher than 200 officers, sometimes a little lower. Right now we're 189 is the authorized strength. But as I shared earlier, being between the major areas of Milwaukee and Chicago, we're a smaller community with a smaller department, but we have bigger city issues because of our proximity to bigger cities.
Yeah. And you're on that corridor with people going back and forth between Milwaukee and Chicago, and they're bringing the problems up to Racine with
Yes,
them,
sir.
right?
And even in the interstate, even some of our issues go as far as Minneapolis. And so, yeah, we're definitely on this I-94 corridor that brings human trafficking. It can bring drug trafficking. It can bring gang activity. And so, yeah, we have to be very open to working with other jurisdictions to basically keep our community safe.
Yeah. And you mentioned Minneapolis, so that'll kind of segue into a little bit of what happened over this past summer in 2020. We all know 2020 was something else, wasn't it? And we're
Oh my goodness, yeah,
yeah.
yes, sir.
We're all glad we're in 2021, even though it sounds like it's kind of feeling like a little bit like 2020 still. But in 2020 we had BLM with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all that type of stuff that happened over the summer. How did those events affect your department and your city?
So no department, as you know, was basically exempt from that experience. And here in Racine, we actually had one of our community policing houses was the victim of an arson in relationship to the events in Minneapolis. And the irony of this event that happened here in Racine is there's a beloved member of our community. Her name is Dr. Thelma Orr. This particular community policing house was named after Dr. Thelma Orr. Dr. Thelma Orr actually was responsible for me being on the department. She knew me from the neighborhood. She thought that I'd be a pretty good police officer, and I didn't have any aspirations to do that, but she was very concerned about the disparate number of people of color and females in law enforcement. So this was in the 70s and the 80s, and so she convinced me to take on this role, and then so I'm just forever grateful for that. But the community policing houses in our community, basically, they're more than it's not a police outpost. Excuse me, it's not a police precinct. We do homework assistance initiatives there. We do so young folks in the neighborhood who don't have computer access can go to the COP house. One of our proud sons of Racine, Karan Butler, played with Miami Heat, the Lakers, Wizards.
Oh, okay, yes.
And he purchased computers for the young people so they can go there. And if they don't have broadband access at their homes, they can also, if you have free or reduced lunch And then in the summertime, when there's no school, you can go to the community policing house and get your meal. And so this is more of a community resource. So this particular home was named after Dr. Thelma Orr. It was firebombed in the aftermath of the George Floyd controversy. The amazing thing that happened was even folks in the community who were disgruntled with law enforcement were so offended by the fact that somebody would firebomb the house that was named after Thelma Orr. Those people who may have been our adversaries, became our supporters because Thelma Orr was just that beloved. And she worked with the police in the 70s, 80s, and 90s to bring about community centers and things of that nature. So fortunately for us, what could have been a really tragic event turned out to be something that galvanized the community, all based on life and legacy of very beloved member of our community. She would be the equivalent of like Rosa Parks on a local level.
Wow. And was that community center burned down to the ground? Was it permanently damaged or?
No, it wasn't burned down to the ground, but it had some extensive damage, and they're still literally in the process of repairing it now. But after this event happened, the community came together. One major business donor in particular, we had about $300,000 in donations to bring that facility back, and so we're very grateful to the community that they support our department to that level.
And has that responsible person or persons been identified and brought to justice yet?
Yeah, now that's the unique thing. So within 24 hours of the event, because the community was outraged, and within 24 hours, we had folks letting us know which direction to go, and the people were in custody shortly thereafter. And they were not from this community. The two main instigators, they had no idea who Thelma Orr was, clearly, or they wouldn't have picked that particular house. Right.
So round of applause for that as well. For the community in Racine as well for stepping up and getting those people into custody. That's what's up. That's what community is all about. So you're born and raised in Racine. You are the police chief there now. What's the relationship between your department and the community of Racine, particularly in the African American community now?
So overall, we've had a unique experience here. Since probably 92, the chief at that time, Chief Richard Polzine, introduced the community policing philosophy. And here it's a little deeper than just putting officers on bicycles and riding through the neighborhood. It's about relationships. And so we have 6 what we call community policing houses in the neighborhoods, and they all are custom made for each neighborhood. One particular neighborhood, we have a guy who takes care of all of our bikes for bike patrol. But he also, because he loves bikes so much, he converted his office at his COP area. He converted his office into a neighborhood bike repair shop. And so, in terms of rapport, I would say that we have phenomenal rapport with a lot of the younger people. This started in 1995. We created an organization called myself and Officer Larry Ivy, Sergeant Al Dates at the time, Lieutenant Steve Hurley at the time. We started Racine Police Athletic Association to build relationships with young people. So we've been taking kids fishing over the last 20 plus years. Those kids that were 12, 13, 14, 20 years ago are obviously in their 30s now, heading towards 40. And these are the people that are the witnesses, the victims, the people that we need to cooperate with. And so certainly you're going to have pockets of dissension within any community, but overall, because of the work that we put in to build trust over the years, we have a unique scenario in our community.
Yeah, put that trust in the bank so that when issues like what happened in 2020 come about, you can make withdrawals from that bank, that trust bank, and it's there for you.
Yeah, definitely. I refer to it as trust equity, and we definitely had to make some major deposits and withdrawals in 2020. Yeah. So, but if you've got 20 years worth of deposits, you'll have that bank to draw from.
Absolutely. And another issue that happened in 2020 was, of course, COVID, the pandemic. How did that affect your department and your city?
So, yeah, definitely. Just like every other department, we were watching departments across the nation almost have to shut down. And so what we did is we went to an emergency schedule. And effectively, what we did is we gave our officers a built-in reprieve, and so they would work. They'd work 6 days for 16 hours, and then they'd be off for 6 days, and they would be on call for 6 days, and then they would be off for another 6 days. So basically, they would be off for 18 days. So if you were to have any type of exposure, that would manifest itself during the 18 days that you were not required to be at work. And so that way we were able to stay ahead of the problem.
Has the vaccine made its way towards your community?
Definitely. We did not mandate it for union reasons, but we made sure that our officers and firefighters were first in line when the vaccines hit. I've already received my second vaccination, and most of the officers have voluntarily done so as well. So we're encouraged by that.
Yeah, I just got my second one last week, and it wasn't as bad as the first one, but, how did it affect you?
So no effects at all. Like the second one, I didn't even feel it. The first one, I felt a little bit of a prick. And then thereafter, not any reaction or anything, just a little bit of tenderness in my shoulder. One, I haven't really experienced anything.
Yeah, I had and the first one was like, man, like, well, which vaccine did you get? The Moderna or the?
So we had Pfizer.
Okay, that might be the difference, because I had the Moderna, and it felt like not at the time, but afterwards, the tenderness felt like, I don't know, like I got a fastball to the arm for a few days. And the second one wasn't as bad, just some tenderness. And but the first one, I had chills the first couple of nights. Tylenol got rid of that, but the second one not as much. So,
wow.
Yeah, the wife was saying, that's a good thing. It's showing that your body is fighting and building up antibodies. I was like, okay, yeah, if you want to look at it that way, but Yeah. But it's over with, and hopefully all of us can get vaccinated, and those that don't get vaccinated, hopefully those that are vaccinated kind of help out with that so that we can get back to normal, because there's so many things that I'm missing right now that I wish we can get back to, and we need to get back to soon, right?
Yeah, my mom is 87, almost 87 years old, a few months away, and she said she's waiting for the Johnson vaccine. She only wants to take one shot, so she's waiting.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get that taken care of soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Looks like things are moving right along. So hopefully we can get this one all squared away and done and eradicated, at least, like polio and chickenpox, and be done. But these variants are popping up every other week. So, the more people don't get vaccinated and don't follow the social distancing and the masking, the more these issues keep popping up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you guys still on the lockdown issues over there, or?
For as far as COVID?
Yes.
No. We've got about 50% capacity here in terms of restaurants and things of that nature. So certainly our city leaders are attempting to make sure that we open up in a safe manner. Schools are still virtual for the most part, but we're planning to go in-house within the next few weeks. And so slowly little by little, we're opening up so that we can keep people safe and keep the economy open.
Yeah, that's a big issue right now with schools, because you can see that, kids are, they first of all, they need that socialization, right? And, you'll never think. I had two kids, one is in high school, one that just graduated right during the pandemic last year, so he didn't get to have his senior prom and a normal graduation, all that. Yeah, it was pretty sad. But now he's in his first year of college, and now they're virtual in college. But I was meaning to say, a lot of kids are having depression now because they're not socializing with their other kids, and they don't know how to. They're sitting in front of this computer like we are all day long, and that's not something that they need to be doing as human beings, right?
Yeah, definitely. And, I've worked with young folks quite a bit throughout my career, and I reflect back on my youth, and I can't imagine being confined to the home, multiple days in a row. If I had to stay in the house 2 days in a row, that would be nerve-wracking. And so we definitely need to reach out to these young people and make sure that we, open up opportunities for them to socialize and get back in the classroom.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, my other one, she's still in high school. She's a junior in high school, and she hopefully will get all this COVID thing out of the way so that she can have a normal senior year next year. But yeah, this year's a
Definitely.
wash. This year's a wash.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you mentioned that when you were younger, you had no aspirations to be a police officer until you were kind of coaxed in the position by the doctor you were mentioning earlier. What was your experience growing up with law enforcement? Do you have any negative interactions with law enforcement?
So yeah, as a young person, not so much, but it was just that we didn't have necessarily role models in our community that did that type of work, and so it wasn't anything I aspired to do. As I shared, my parents came from the South. Many people came up for the jobs, and so there were factory jobs, there were like automotive jobs. There were so many different jobs that you could make a really decent living, and most of us would have probably gravitated to those areas of work. However, in 1980, there was a recession, and so that's when I was approached by Dr. Orr, who indicated that yeah, well, some of these jobs that were there are not available, but
Yeah.
there's jobs at the post office, there's jobs at the fire department, jobs at the police department, and so certainly she encouraged some of us to reach higher, to look in some different areas than we had considered before.
Yeah. But to do well in this, I hear that a lot, it's a job, but to do well in this job, you have to have it within you, right? To want to be able to help people and to aspire in it and do well in it. So you obviously had that within you, correct?
Well, here's how I would describe that. So Dr. Thelma Orr was a very wise person. She worked for the local urban league, and as I look back on it now, and your words are profound. I think, and this happens with mentorship. Sometimes people can see things in you or see things in others that you don't even see in yourself. And so, as a teenager, um, I didn't see these things in myself, but she obviously saw some characteristics that she thought might transfer well to this profession, and turns out that she was right. In terms of my experience with law enforcement, I did have a negative experience in the Milwaukee area where I was profiled when I was about 18 years old. And it was just that one occasion, but if anybody has ever been, profiled, I mean, it can affect you long term. And
Hmm.
so I think that experience helped me understand that, in order to really change hearts and minds, change the profession for the better, you can be critical of it, but the best way to make change is to be a part of the
To be a
process.
be a part of the solution. Absolutely. And that's always been my mantra since day one, since why I wanted to join. Be a part of the solution. Just don't be sitting on the
Definitely.
sidelines crying about it. Be a part of the solution. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So yeah. So you being an African American, you being a chief there, what's the sort of the does your department kind of mirror the demographics of the community?
So it's pretty close. It's not where we would want to be. We've done a great. We've been really successful hiring folks of color and females during my tenure. The only problem is we had a lot of baby boomers that were hired in the 80s and the 90s, and so we did really well in terms of bringing new people on, but we lost people through retirement as well. So it's a constant
Yeah.
struggle.
Yeah, yeah. And then so you guys are still, actively trying to recruit and being intentional in recruiting minorities. Is that correct?
Definitely, definitely, and unashamedly so. I mean, and unfortunately, the George Floyd situation shows us that you really want to make sure that you're intentional about hiring people of color, females, and not for the purpose of hiring people of color or females, for the purpose of basically broadening the experiences, the levels of you know the range of possibilities just gets enhanced when you have a diverse workforce. Most people understand that. I think people understand to a greater extent post some of the traumatic events that we've had across the country.
Yeah,
So you
absolutely.
certainly you certainly don't want to infer that you're going to lower the bar to get females or minorities. I think it's expanding your range of competencies.
Yes, absolutely. But on the flip side, I've also heard, being devil's advocate, that sometimes you need to maybe lower. I wouldn't say lower your standards, but some of the background issues that some of us in our communities may have just from encounters with law enforcement in our youth. That some of those are automatic disqualifiers that should maybe be overlooked depending on how severe they were. That maybe in other communities you don't have that problem. Do you kind of see that, and some African American applicants, other minority applicants being washed out?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll give you two examples in particular. Um, Many people, over the years, people have assumed that if a person has a poor credit score or low credit rating, that somehow that's an indication of, irresponsibility or something to that effect. What really needs to happen is you have to take a closer look. You can't just look at the credit score. Look at maybe the person went to college and got behind on college loans or things of that nature. Maybe they had a person in their family who had a medical condition, and so there's all these variables. And so to
Yeah,
completely ignore or eliminate someone on the basis of some metric that you can't drill down into is that will definitely undermine your ability to have a really diverse workforce, and that's a condition that could happen to a person of any ethnicity.
sure.
Another area that we found that we had to really reimagine was traffic violations and things of that nature. Sometimes there's certain people, depending upon the community you live in, you may be statistically at greater risk to get a speeding citation than in other
It,
areas, and
yes.
um, so it's basically the totality of the circumstances, right? So I think most progressive chiefs, most progressive departments are certainly not looking to lower the standards. They're looking to enhance the metrics by which you interpret the standards.
Yeah. And where do those ultimate decisions lie? Do they lie with you? Do they lie with someone underneath you? Do they lie with the background investigator to be able to wash out a candidate?
So I think it starts with the chief's office, and then certainly here in our community we have a police and fire commission, and so if I believe that candidate A should be given an opportunity, irrespective of what's in this background investigative packet, I, as the chief, can go to the police and fire commission to say, based on my 30 plus years of experience, this is the type of person that has the moral character and the compass that we want. We can teach you how to do accents. We can teach you all these different things, and we can give you the benefit of the doubt on a speeding ticket that you may have or a credit issue that you may have. But we cannot re-engineer your character. So
Yes.
if we can start out with that, then I can be comfortable approaching the PFC to say this is a candidate that I would stake my reputation on, and this is the type of person that we need to police our community.
Absolutely. And you being African American, have you had the opportunity to mentor other officers, throughout your career to enter the police department for the first of all, and then once they're there, kind of usher them along the way in their careers?
So definitely. So the mentoring, though, it happens on multiple levels. Some people decide to come into law enforcement, some don't. But I think just having access to a person, first person of color to hold this rank, it basically opens up quite a few possibilities for other people, right? Whether that be in law enforcement or other areas, they can see that, okay, if this person could overcome that hurdle, then I can overcome some hurdles in my life as well. And so, yeah, certainly there's been opportunities for me to mentor people who have come into the profession, but on a broader level, it's great to have the influence to mentor people across the board, different spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then back on the issue of character and integrity, we spoke off air that you are involved in your church. You're a musician.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. How involved are you in your church?
Yeah, so I'm a part of the music ministry. So every Sunday we're not having church now. We're having it virtually. So we live stream our music, over the internet, and so yeah, I've been doing that for many years. Actually, I was in a band. I was in a church band when I was like 12, 13 years old. So I've
Okay.
been doing the music thing for quite a few years.
What's your instrument of choice?
So I play bass, guitar primarily, also a little bit of guitar and drums if they let me.
If they let you.
Yeah.
Drums has always been an instrument I've always wanted to pick up, and I've just never had the courage to pick it up, only because it's pretty noisy, right? Unless you get the electronic drums, or you can wear headphones, but it's not the same as a real set of drums, right?
Right. Well, a lot of the young folks, my son included, everything's digital now. They're programming music. They're not
Oh yeah,
as
yeah.
adept at playing. They're programming. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I came up, and I'm still. I don't know if you noticed the records back here. I'm kind of a music aficionado. I'm a DJ off duty, and I came up during hip hop. I'm a big hip hop head, so I know all about programming on drum machines. 808. The 808 was the big one back in the day,
Oh,
and it's still
okay.
that sound is still prevalent in hip hop today. So yeah, I know all
Definitely.
about that. Love that. Love that. But to be able to pick up a real set of sticks and get down on it, it's something I've always wanted to do. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I'll do it one day.
All right. Well, with you having that music background, maybe we have to set up a kind of an online session. I'm sure some of the other folks that you interview have some musical skills as well. So we have to
Yeah.
kind of get
Yep.
together a police band.
Yes. There's a young gentleman, officer out in Sacramento I'm going to be interviewing a little bit later today. He's a Christian rapper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have to. So on that note, I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you a track that we did with a Christian rapper. We have a. I didn't mention this. We have a Police Pals music studio at one of the community centers,
Okay.
and yeah, we actually had a Christian rapper come in and rap in our studio, and it's a pretty amazing track
It
actually.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love seeing it, and it goes to show that rap doesn't have to be all about gang violence and drugs and what they're talking about now, twerking and trap houses and all that type of stuff. It can be positive too. So
Definitely, definitely.
it can be definitely positive. So as chief of police, what are one of your crowning moments as a chief?
So we did something when the Freddie Gray tragedy happened in Baltimore. I was the board chair of United Way, and I was there with President Rodney Prunty, and we were broken at what we saw. So obviously this is years before George Floyd, and so we came back to Racine and we looked at what was going on in our school system, and based off of what we saw in Baltimore and based off of what we read in Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, we decided that we wanted to attack the school to prison pipeline. And so we moved away from school resource officers as they were known, and we implemented the school community policing officer model. And we handpicked specific officers to do this role. Officer Jake Santana, Officer Jerome King came in, and they knocked it out of the park. And long story short, what these folks were able to do, these officers, was to build trust, rapport with the young people in the school, and they were able to come up with alternative sanctions for disruptive behavior. And so we're not talking about gang members that are shooting people. I mean, there's certain crimes that you still have to treat as crimes, but
Yeah.
90% of what happened in the school wasn't that. 90% was behavioral, right? And so whether that was a situation where people had mental health challenges, that where they live with mental health issues, we found that when we introduced alternative sanctions for some of the disruptive behavior, we found that we reduced arrests and citations in the school by 43%. Um, these are
Wow.
the lasting things that I think will make a difference. And so ironically enough, if you look at Sir Robert Peel's, 9 principles of policing, obviously, you want to prevent crime. You don't want to necessarily arrest criminals, and then you have to have the trust and the respect of the community, and then you also, have to use the minimum amount of intervention or force necessary. And so those are the three of the top principles out of the whole Peel, playbook. And so when we found that we could reduce arrests and citations in the school system by 43%, what that told us is that there was some over policing that was going on. Now, most police agencies would not like to admit that, but when you equip police officers with the tools to make arrests, that's what they'll do. If you equip them with a system that they can use alternatives to arrest, we call them alternative sanctions, then they will use those tools. And so credit to Dr. Eric Gallion, who partnered with the police department to allow us to come to the school systems with a new model. When most people wanted to kick police officers out of the schools completely, we came in with a hybrid system to make sure that the community and the schools were still safe without bringing the enforcement aspect to the table. We brought alternative solutions and alternative sanctions. So that's one of the things that we've done that has been incredible. And certainly I was a part of the implementation process, but all credit goes to the folks on the front line who made it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really, really big on SROs. Before the pandemic, I was an SRO signed to one of our local high schools as well. And that was our marching orders when we got assigned to the schools is, alternative enforcement, which we call, diversion programs. And, the school system, they have their own security. So we let them do most of the enforcement. We're there to, build bridges and humanize and all those sorts of things, and be mentors to these youth in the school, so they can see a police officer on a one-on-one level, not just when we're coming into their house to deal with mommy or daddy or what have you. They can deal with us on a day-to-day. And like I said, I'm big on hip hop, so I when I speak to these kids, I do a lot of debates on hip hop. What's better, my generation or your generation? Just having fun chopping it up with these kids, and they see me as a human being, and not just this guy wearing a badge and a gun in their school.
Definitely, and I found that to be our experience as well. You mentioned it. We've had officers who built rapport in the school system and wound up having to show up at a young person's house for something outside of the school, environment, and just because of that relationship, it changed the complete nature of how the call went down. And so that
is exactly. I'll tell you a story. The same exact thing happened. There was a young man at this high school I was at, and he was a troubled youth. But I'd talk with him every day, young African-American kid. And he ultimately had to leave the school. He got expelled for some reason, but we still had this rapport. And one day there was a call that went out for patrol that at this one house, and patrol said a couple of the kids went to my school and if I could show up there. And then I went out there, and one of the kids, they surrounded the house because, they had information that maybe he had a weapon or something. And then, so then I went up there, and then I said, hey, I'm not going to say his name. Come on out. It's Officer Peters. And he said, hey, Officer Peters, is that you? I said, yeah, come on out, man. Stop acting foolish. He said, oh, man, my girl's just in here tripping. And he came out, and everything was, he didn't have a weapon. He was upset on some stuff, but, just my rapport with him was able to bring him out because he wouldn't come out for the other officers. And we chopped it up. I gave him a ride wherever he needed to go to get him out of that situation. That's just from that rapport at the school.
Yeah, man, as you're explaining that story, I'm just thinking, man, it was all about trust. He came outside because he trusted you.
Yes.
He respected
yes.
you.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what it was all about. I'm sad that we can't, there's got to be some way we can, during this pandemic, we can, build those bridges still. I'm still working with our school district to find ways to be able to do that, since there's no in-person schools right now, but, I'm working with them. We'll figure it out. I know there's officers finding ways to do it, but it's still not the same, obviously.
Right. We'll get there.
All right. Yeah, we'll get there. And in the meantime, we got to keep forging ahead, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what's the, I know you've got 34 years. Was it 34, 36 years? I'm sorry.
36,
my memory. 36. Yeah, 36. See, I know I was on right there. What's the plan for you next? You're on your way out to retire. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so that's like the $1 million, if not $1 billion question locally, and so I'll just
I was gonna say
keep
because I
this
don't
in
have $1
mind.
million here for you, Chief.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Grant writing. I was a grant writer here for many years. Wrote almost $4 million in state, federal, and local grants to build the COP infrastructure. I want to transfer some of that knowledge to building community resources to keep our young folks from ever being caught up in the criminal justice system.
Absolutely, I love that. Love that. We lost signal there for a little bit, so we got cut off on some of your dissertation there, but I got most of it. And I wish you well in retirement, whenever that may be. No one's pushing you out the door. It may be maybe next month, and maybe next year, however long you decide to do it.
Definitely
It's kind of
awesome.
yes, it's kind of like the athletes. So we say you rather retire too late than too early, right?
Yeah. So in my case, and as you would know this, I mean, being in law enforcement since '84, that's over 36 years.
Oh yeah.
You get a lot of late night phone calls, and
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a strain on the family. So when the family, when you answer that call, your family's involved in it as well, and so
Yeah.
I just want to, basically get back to family and do some traveling, do some things that we couldn't do when we were, engaged with this role that I have now.
Yeah. What is the family makeup for yourself?
So I'm married to. I was married the same year I was hired, so it's easy for me to remember how many years. 36
Yes,
years.
that makes it really
Have
easy.
a
Keep it easy at
very
home,
easy
right?
for me. Son and a daughter. My son is 28. My daughter's 31. They both live in the area, and one's an educator, and one works in housing industry, and so very successful in their own right. Very proud of them, and then have had there's 6 siblings altogether. I just lost one of my brothers a couple weeks ago, and but my mom is
Sorry to
still
hear that.
living, and so yeah, thank you. And so want to just spend as much time as I can with the family.
Yes, yes. So much of your time was away from the family. Now you need to get back to that. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
None of your kids wanted to follow in dad's footsteps and be a cop?
No, ironically enough, my son, he half of his social network, they're police officers, and they just assumed that he would join ranks with them. And I think he sees the toll that it can take on a family in terms of birthdays missed, Christmas dinners that get cold,
Yep.
and
Yep.
and so he has a different vantage point. And and I was never the type of parent to try to direct my children's path. You give them the tools and let them figure it out on their own, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds like you guys did a good job. Mostly your wife, because you were out doing all the fun stuff, chasing bad guys and all that stuff.
Yeah, she will be ecstatic to hear that part. Yeah, but no, she has done a phenomenal job, and she just retired last year herself, so she had 37 years at her job. So to be a working mom and a
Yes.
stay at home mom and working is she does deserve the acknowledgement.
Props to all the single mom, not single moms, but all the moms out there working as well. Props to all them. So we appreciate you for all the work that you do. I got the same here at my household. So props to all that. All right,
Awesome.
cool. Well, I appreciate you for coming on, Chief. And this is real fun. Got a lot of good information from you. But we spoke off air. Before I let you go, I got a little quick fire question and answer session for you. This is called.
Last night I saw a superhero, he was black. He said, "This is for the street, Black Lightning's back."
This is called my Black Lightning round. I'm just going to fire some quick questions at you, and you just fire back some quick answers, and we'll get you through this real quick. Not too tough for you. So here's your first one.
Okay.
You're up there in Wisconsin. I know it snows a lot. I'm out here in California, so as viewers out here, we need to know, do cops really make traffic stops when it's snowing?
Yeah, I'll be honest. We make less.
Yeah.
You make less stops. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I was like, it's too cold to be getting out this car. Unless it's something, unless it's something major. Hey, you live and learn, right? Your next one, Packers or Bears?
Packers.
Packers. Okay, because you were in Wisconsin, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Name a person who's inspired you most as a leader.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go with, on the local level, I got to go with Dr. Thelma Orr.
Yes, you mentioned her. So, okay. Good one. Good one. Okay, so I'm out here in California and I want to visit Racine. Where do I need to go? Tell me, point out a point of interest for me, or a restaurant or something. Where do I need to go?
Man, you're going to go down to La Tapatia to get some authentic Mexican food. You're going to love it. It's in the hood, but you're going to
best
love
places. Those are the best places. The best places to go. All right.
Yeah. Yes.
So, if you weren't a cop, what would you be doing?
Man, I would be touring with George Clinton, Bootsy, Funkadelic.
Yeah.
Earth, Wind, and Fire would probably have me sit in every now and then I would kick it with Frankie Mays a little bit as well.
All right. So on that note, here's your next one: Patti LaBelle or Shaka Khan?
Man, gotta go with Patti.
Gotta go with Patti. All right. They're both legends, though, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you shoot right-handed or left-handed?
Phenomenal question. I'm left-handed, but I shoot right-handed as far as long weapon. But if the handgun, I shoot my strong hand, which is left-handed.
Okay. A lot of that has to do with the strong eye dominance and all that type of stuff. Yeah, with the rifle. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely. Any person in history, dead or alive, that you would love to meet if you could?
Yeah, man, King. I'd love to meet King. A lot of questions.
Yeah, Dr. King, absolutely. What was your first car?
Man, I had a 1970 Mustang, lime green.
Lime green. Was it new at the time? Was it fresh at the time?
No, it's about 6 years old.
Okay, well, that's not that bad. 6-year-old car. Nah. But was lime green? Did that look cool back at the time? Did people say like, "Oh
man, listen, where I grew up, if you had a car, it could have been pink."
That part.
It was cool because you had a car.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, dealing with these youth today, it's tough to get a lot of them to even get their driver's licenses because you got Uber and all that. I'm like, how can you not have a driver's license? How can you take out a girl, hang out with your homies, and
right?
I just don't get it. We old, Chief. We old, Chief.
Right. I see.
Yeah. All right. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you for playing along with that. That was fun. Get some good insight, personal insight on you, and tell everybody, any last words you want the people listening and watching to know before we get you out of here.
Yeah, 2020, as you stated, tough year for law enforcement. But the simple fact is we have to figure out a way to coexist. I'm looking forward to a better 2021 once we get past COVID. I'd love to continue to engage, whether it's through consulting or through other, interaction. We definitely got to figure out this, how we build better communities, build safer communities, and keep communities thriving and in partnership with the community and the law enforcement community in particular. They've taken quite a beating. A lot of police officer suicides over the last few years. It's accumulative stress over time, and so what we're hoping is that we figure out a way to engage on a level that prevents us from ever repeating what we saw in 2020.
Absolutely. Great words to live by. All right, Chief. I thank you for joining me here today. I appreciate you. You and your people out there, be safe. Continue to mask up and wash your hands and all that good stuff, and we'll get through this pandemic together. There you go. Yes, I love it. Yeah. All right, Chief. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Great job with the podcast series. Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all she wrote for this installment of the Black and Blue Podcast. A big Black and Blue thank you to my guest on this episode, Chief Art Howell of the Racine, Wisconsin Police Department, for popping in and dropping some knowledge on us. I truly enjoyed our conversation, and I know you'll be retiring soon, so I wish you nothing but the best in retirement. If all y'all enjoyed this episode too, please give it a thumbs up. And make sure to subscribe to the Black and Blue Podcast on our YouTube channel or your favorite podcast platform. I'll be back in a mere 2 weeks with another great guest. Same black time, same black channel. But till then, say it with me. Stay black in blue. I'll holler at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.